and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. I'm Dallas Easy Fight today. Joining me, as per usual, Matt Smite Ross, and it is indeed the final day of round robin play here. We've just seen Fireball take down Hong Kong Attitude in a very stylish end to their OPC run. Now, it's going to be Hong Kong Attitude's chance to get themselves a final win on the board. They're going to be taking on SunSister, and obviously having a look at the scoreboard here, SunSister still sitting down there on 0 wins. Hopefully tonight is the night they can pick themselves up their first win.
Luckily for them, it's not the end of the world if they do drop this series, because they do play Detonator later on, and that's the team that they are more likely to take a win against. But we can get a good gauge of their performance in this series today. It's gonna be, let's just say Hong Kong Attitude are the favored team to win here. But after that defeat by the hands of Fireball, I'm expecting perhaps SunSister can pull something out. Not necessarily a series win, but definitely a map here or there.
Well, here obviously we see the lads from Hong Kong Attitude, and I mean, they were obviously favored to take down Fireball, and then obviously Fireball, in very surprising fashion, ended up 3-1ing them. So I'm gonna go with the whole, they're on full tilt now. They don't know where they stand anymore. SunSister are going to be coming in with a very big surprising upset and taking Hong Kong Attitude out. I don't even believe the words I'm saying right now, to be quite frank. But
that's a big call. It's a big call, Easy, right? I mean, look, SunSister, they are the bottom of the table for a reason. They haven't got a win yet. They've picked up 5 maps in total, and two of those are against Detonator instead.
Bring it up. There we go.
Look, I mean, it's a rough series for them. And look, see 5 maps in total. They're the bottom of the table entirely. Hong Kong Attitude, they've had a great performance lately. SunSister, yes, they've been improving a huge amount over the entirety of the OPC. Unfortunately, it's been not as much as other teams have pulled out. Yeah,
well, if there's a chance for SunSister to get themselves a win, obviously it's now either against the flailing remains that is Hong Kong Attitude, but I mean, really, they have shown, again, as you mentioned, great improvements across the board. They will obviously be facing the relegation playoffs going forward, so it is very important for them to obviously have a strong showing in their final 2 matches of the OPC, obviously build up some confidence, because they want to obviously be able to start picking some wins up and start looking like a strong team.
And also, the relegations, they're not far away. They're actually a few days away. I believe they start on Tuesday for us. So, look, SunSister don't have a lot of time between now and when they have to fight for the very right to compete in the Pacific Championship in Season 2. So they need to already have everything together by tonight. They need to show that against Hong Kong Attitude. And look, I said it before, this is a team that's improved quite a lot. And in fact, in their previous week, they actually exceeded expectations by quite a lot, not necessarily through direct results, but by their performance. It was quite a shock to me, to be honest. But look, if they do the exact same thing again this weekend, then I'm not saying they're going to take a series win against Hong Kong Attitude, because that's such a bold claim to make. But look, I wouldn't have said the same thing against Fireball before their match came up against Hong Kong Attitude. So look, tonight anything could be possible.
Well, SunSister will have that home team advantage, and they're going to need all the help they can get, obviously, coming up against Hong Kong Attitude. Even though I do feel that Hong Kong Attitude, going to be pretty disappointed with their previous performance, they're definitely going to be coming into this one with something to prove, I feel.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's their previous performance. It's how they're going to be able to recover from that. And while they're not going to be in playoffs, it won't be a thing for a while, but coming into Season 2 of the OPC, they're going to have to show that they are going to be capable of coming back from losses like that. Devastating losses, I've got to say, because against Fireball, you'd expect it to at least go to 5 games, but it was only 3-1. But here's SunSister on your screen right now, and this is a lineup they've been running for quite a while now, ever since they've subbed XQQ in. He has settled down a little bit. He's been a bit crazy in the past with his picks, but he's settled down on that soldier.
And I mean, having a look at the lineup of HKA very briefly there, Shaolin and K4 being sort of a very standout DPS combo, were really matched by Apudo and NZNR in this one. I mean, having a look at Night Owl, the team captain here, being pretty consistent across the board. They've shown, I guess, a lot of diversity in who on the SunSister side can play what. And I mean, if they can really hammer that out, this is where obviously their strengths lie, in being a very, flexible team.
The two players that you just saw, Elu and Night Owl as well, are going to be super important because they're the supports. They're going to have to stay alive against the onslaught once more of Hong Kong Attitude coming up against K4, Sha Yulin. They're going to be diving you because they very often run the Genji and the Tracer instead of Soldier.
And I mean, Zetman on that tank, he's going to have his work cut out for him, you know, trying to face off against a Ting who's going to be very warm after sort of dealing with the side of Fireball as well. And I mean, again, all eyes generally on XQQ here, generally being their standout player. Fallen quieter and quieter throughout this sort of OPC tournament, but again, a little bit of a smile on his face there, a rare sight for XQQ.
It is a bit of a rare sight, but it's good to see. And like I said earlier, he has been settling down on that Soldier a little bit more than flexing onto other hero picks, which have had mixed results. But here he is on your screen right now, K4. Not
looking animated as ever.
Not looking quite as cheery as XQQ was, and you know, you've got to feel that some of that may have come off their previous performance. I mean, there's no question about it. Him and Sha Yulin, as a duo, were outclassed by NZNR and Apudo.
Most definitely, but a Ting, you know, definitely had some great moments on his Winston across the board here. And I mean, coming up against Zetman, might be slightly ahead of him as well, but I said that before with Titawat here. Jin Kao as well, been very strong on his Diva throughout.
Yeah, I mean, look, also CQB, I talked about on SunSister their supports and how they're going to have to weather the onslaught coming up from Hong Kong Attitude. I think for Hong Kong Attitude supports themselves, Mango and CQB, not only are the DPS players coming up from SunSister less threatening right now than Hong Kong Attitude's ones, but also Hong Kong Attitude, Mango especially, are fantastic at defending themselves against these DPS players, the Tracers, the Genjis that are diving on top of them and trying to take them down. Mango will hit you with a sleep that will shut you down and make sure that he stays alive to continue to heal his team, even hitting the Discord Orb with the headshots, which one-shots a Tracer, by the way.
While SunSister are going to be taking us back to Nepal. Obviously, I've just watched the previous matchup, seeing if they can take this one away from Hong Kong Attitude as well, who previously just lost to Fireball on Nepal, so hopefully they've been able to take a page out of the Fireball strat book here and can take a little bit of inspiration from that.
It was a loss, but it was a very, very close loss, right? We went to 5 maps. They actually did fantastically on the first map. So Hong Kong Attitude by no means are weak on Nepal at all. So SunSister, it's an interesting choice. I'm not going to put it entirely on the fact that they just saw Hong Kong Attitude lose on it because, like I said, it was a close one. So SunSister, they must have been practicing this because quite often their previous control picks have been almost exclusively Lijiang Tower.
And I think more often than not, we've seen XQQ sort of falling onto that Soldier time and time again. And I think from what we've seen on Nepal, you know, both of these teams really are, well, Fireball obviously prioritizing the Soldier pickup throughout that. They're not trying to go for that Genji versus Genji once they found, you know, Apuda's Soldier working really well. So I think it's going to be a lot on XQQ to find his footing here with the Soldier and see if he can deal with the likes of Hong Kong Attitude.
Well, that's the thing, right, as well. We actually saw in the couch interview, Apudo said that the original plan was just to have him on Genji the whole time, and then they realized it wasn't coming up against K4's Genji too well, so they swapped it in the middle of the series, and you know, this was a new thing to them. They hadn't practiced it too much. Difference for SunSister is that XQQ will be on the Soldier from the start unless something has changed since last week. So they already have that going into it. They don't have to worry about matching up their Genji to K4's Genji. They just have to worry about playing the Soldier into Genji matchup in that way, getting that tack visor to shut down the Dragon
I
Blade.
bet because we've said this now as well.
He's going to play something like
that. He's going to play Genji.
Or Genji.
No, I bet he's going to play Genji. Just because he's heard us say that, he's like, you know what? I'm going to make these guys wrong and I'm going to pick Genji.
It's the caster's curse. It happens all too often, but all things aside, statistically, from a point of view that we've been looking at these matches previously, look, he should be coming out on that Soldier tonight, and Nepal is a map, out of all the control maps, one that you can fit Soldier on fairly well, especially Sanctum. You can sit up in that corner and demand attention very far away from the point itself, and then also have the threat of that bottomless pit right in front of you. You can have your teammates nearby, Lucio to knock them back into the hole. There's a lot of protection you can leave for a Soldier, while he's also quite distant from the fight itself. Something
as well that SunSister, I think, if they've got this hammered out, will be very, very good for them, is the fact that they don't actually have a lot of strength coming from Elu in the last few weeks. I feel that he's been a very big sort of weak point of the team, and that if they can really hammer out, I guess, Elu's sort of weaknesses, then that's when they're going to be able to really step into their stride there, because he is somewhat not good at keeping himself alive, nor is he a very aggressive Lucio player. So if he can sort of step into his element, SunSister, I think, will have a really good showing.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on that as well, because Ilu is going to be the crucial piece of defense against Hong Kong Attitude, because there's not going to be tactical visors, there's going to be Dragon Blades, and you can't eat that with the defensive matrix. So Adenkin's going to be off somewhere else doing something useful. So it's going to be almost entirely on Ilu and Night Owl as well for the Transcendence to protect his team through that means, because K4, we've seen what happens when he's allowed to get big Dragon Blades. So you're absolutely right, Easy. Ilu is going to need to be alive for these fights so he can break it down.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, because that's what Lucio
yeah,
says.
I see what you did there. I love that. But moments away from getting into Nepal here. Very excited to see SunSister. What improvements have they made yet again? Obviously improving week in, week out. Still not looking extremely strong, but Hong Kong Attitude coming off the back of a loss to Fireball. This is going to be their moment to strike while they're down.
And XQQ sticking on that soldier, toying around with the Tourbillon before, but I think he just likes the character. Fair enough. But look, XQQ on the soldier is going to be the biggest difference here. K4 and Shylin as well is going to be entirely on them to get into the backline, find XQQ. SunSister want to be on the point first, so that Hong Kong Attitude need to use their movement abilities, put them on cooldown, so then SunSister can strike.
You've always got to watch out for Mango Jai as well on that Zenyatta. Such a strong aimer, as well as putting himself in great positions. Mollis bringing up the Tracer here. Still not being able to enclose any of these players and put a real threat of them on them just yet here. And now Hong Kong Attitude really fighting for position on the point. It's unlocked right now, but it looks like SunSister are slowly getting pushed back there as K4 managing to take out Night Owl. And there goes Elu as well. So both supports down now for the side of SunSister. The Helix Rocket does manage to connect with K4. A little bit of a consolation kill there for XQQ, but Hong Kong Attitude walking over SunSister in that first engagement, getting them the first cap.
And unlike Fireball in previous series, SunSister do not cut their losses. They lose basically everyone in that fight. So Hong Kong Attitude now sitting nice and pretty with an ultimate advantage. K4 already with the Dragon Blade, and there's nothing for SunSister to use to shut that down, short of simply killing him straight away as quickly as possible.
And that's a great bit of pressure being put onto him, but there's no follow-up after Zetman leaps onto him, and now K4 looking to make him pay for that bit of aggression. Oh, they stack up for it, and that's a big triple, sending them back to the spawn there from K4. Huge read coming out from him. Now wants to demech Odin Kun as well, and he indeed manages to do so. Not even going to finish that kill up, of course, just to buy them even more time, as now Hong Kong Attitude past 45%.
Wow, that was absolutely ridiculous, but that's what happens when you win the fight so well that the defending team, well, SunSister are not going to have any ultimates, nothing. They barely got the sound barrier. See you later, Diva. They barely got the sound barrier ready for that fight, but by that time, K4 had already killed 3 people with 1 swipe.
Right, so eyes are going to be now on to Mollis, seeing if he can open up the Hong Kong Attitude side with that Pulse Bomb. Night Owl will have a Transcendence as well, so they can push in with that. The Pulse Bomb coming through from Shyu doesn't connect, so a little bit of luck falling the way of SunSister here, but Shyu Lin just destroying XQQ up on the high ground with a Ting by his side, and now the side of SunSister are just split apart, forcing that sound barrier out as well from both of these teams. But it's still, again, Hong Kong Attitude in control. Really dealing with these SunSister players as they try to push up one by one into the might that is Hong Kong Attitude.
Well, that's SunSister clearly just trying to win the fight. They're throwing out the sound barrier, throwing out the pulse bomb. That's a fight that they decided they want to win, but Apuda with attack visor.
XQQ's attack visor isn't long for this world here as he throws it out, gets Mango Jai, but then Shyu yet again all over him there. And now Night Owl sent back as well. Won't be around for this fight, and this is the issue that SunSister continue to have. The support's always getting picked off. They're not really working as a cohesive unit in these engagements here, and overtime ticking down now for SunSister. K4 with another Dragon Blade, looking to make short work of the SunSister side.
Yeah, this should be just a cleanup right now for Hong Kong Attitude. The biggest moment during that was when SunSister, they were coming in for another fight. They've already lost quite a few. It's 80% on the point for Hong Kong Attitude, and they're trying to take the high ground for XQQ so you can use Tactical Visor. That sounds good in theory, right? But you should know that there's the possibility of the enemy team being outside that door, and he runs out first. They don't send the tank first or anything. They don't send out even a Tracer to scout, and they get punished for it. XQQ immediately killed, and there's no tac visor for their fight, but they have to commit anyway.
And that's the thing there as well. Shyu and a Ting really controlling that high ground area, not letting any of these SunSister members push through onto that. They really needed to get Zetman up into a position where he can force them back, and then they come through behind him after he initiates into that fight. Let's see if SunSister are going to change anything up. It looks like not, Smite.
Well, no, you'd expect both teams to run the Soldier instead of the Genji on this one for the reasons I said before, but it's generally you can just keep your Soldier out of the fight completely safe and just demand way too much attention. It also helps for contesting this high ground here. You can just safely do so much damage.
Well, SunSister don't opt to go and get control of the walkway, give it up freely to Hong Kong Attitude here, and now you can see the after effects of what happens when you give that up. K4 now in a very strong position on his stairway as per usual, forcing back these SunSister players. They can't finish this kill here onto Xiaolin. Disappointing there for SunSister as Mollis drops down to Mango Jai, being all over him, and now Hong Kong Attitude picking themselves up the first cap.
And simply just from positioning, because they only got a few kills here and there, but it didn't allow SunSister to move in. They couldn't push past this doorway, so they couldn't even hope to contest the point itself. So Hong Kong Attitude, they do win the point, not as convincingly as the first fight over on the Shrine map, right? So now they do have ultimates, but SunSister, they've got some things to play with as well.
Well, K4 will have an extremely quick tactical visor up, been sitting on this for the last sort of 10 to 15 seconds now. And SunSister going for a very big loop around here onto the point, but K4 just reverses his angle and still sitting there with the tactical visor. Night Owl sitting with a nano boost, seeing if he can find anything with this. Should probably throw it out onto Zetman.
If there's one thing that a Denkin can do, it's react to these tactical visors.
And indeed, here comes that tactical visor from K4 right into, there's the Transcendence up in the front lines as well for Hong Kong Attitude. And look at that, they don't even lose anyone in this engagement as K4 not even contested at all up in the back lines and just reigns supreme here onto SunSister.
Just over 50%, but it's just looking like zero contest coming out from SunSister right now. They have ultimates in the bank, right? They weren't committing anything to these last few fights, but this is basically given a free 3/5 of the point over to Hong Kong Attitude. They've got to go in now. They've got a nano visor combo, but they've got to make sure Jin Kao's not going to be able to block all of it.
And there comes the nano boost. They are indeed going to be throwing it out onto Zetman. XQQ does have his tactical visor up, the sound barrier as well, but Hong Kong Attitude throw theirs out on top and just really cut through the SunSister defensive ultimate here, already taking Night Owl down. Zetman trying to do some good zoning work up on the front lines, just now flailing his arms around uselessly here. And now the tactical visor from XQQ looking to see if he can clean up anything with this. Still can't even find K4 with it, and that's very disappointing for XQQ. Now K4 looking to engage onto him. There is that self-destruct being thrown out onto the point. Doesn't land with anything, but buys a little bit of time as SunSister can get themselves the cap under Hong Kong Attitude's noses. But K4's tactical visor, there's the Transcendence as well. They're going to easily recap this here. Overtime ticking down, and beautifully played here from Hong Kong Attitude, not letting SunSister even have any spawners to really contest this one, now leading Nepal 2-0.
Easy, I don't think a single member of Hong Kong Attitude died in Sanctum. That is how in control of that map they were. Every move made by SunSister was leading up to a big fight with a whole lot of ultimates involved, and we saw that happen around 60%. The nano boost was thrown onto Zetman, but he got basically nothing out of it. The team
and they could have done that in the previous fight as well.
Exactly, they were completely protected, and XQQ found basically nothing with his tactical visor. So once we saw Hong Kong Attitude survive that, it was back to business as usual, and they were just winning the fight so completely one-sidedly when ultimates weren't even involved.
Well, going into the village here, seeing if SunSister can get themselves back into Nepal. Going to need to pick up the win here. Obviously, Hong Kong Attitude leading 2 maps right now. Already going very quickly here. The 2 flanking heroes there. The Tracer v Tracer battle, Mollis versus Xiaolin, just trading a bit of damage here, both of these teams. But yet again, you've got to be careful here, SunSister, for some reason in these engagements. But they actually come out on top. The Helix Rocket finding a Ting, but K4 quick to answer, finding Zetman as well. So both Winstons down here. A lot of this is going to come down to the flanking heroes, and K4 obviously coming out on top now, taking Mango down. XQQ quick to follow as Xiao's all over him. There needs to be a retreat coming through from SunSister, but they won't be able to make it out alive.
Yeah, that retreat path, not the greatest one. It just puts you in a tight spot, and then K4 can just go absolutely nuts with the swift strikes. Gets a kill, gets a reset, but most importantly, gets a lot of damage done with a single strike. So once more, it's Hong Kong Attitude winning the fight quite one-sidedly. Despite a trade early on, they just capitalized on the lack of Winstons in the match to just move and push full forward ahead, and now Dragon Blade's on the table.
Here's the pressure from Zetman though, nicely timed leap in here. This is looking good for SunSister if they can find any more after that initiation. Mollis does manage to take down a Ting, but look at this K4 getting those resets, chopping SunSister down to size here. Now, still sitting on that Dragon Blade, self-destruct as well up for Jin Kao. The whole side of Hong Kong Attitude looking very healthy on their charge.
There's very little that SunSister can realistically do right now. They've got to go in once more, build up a few ults, but importantly try and bait out the ones from Hong Kong Attitude. If they can get a Dragon Blade out of Hong Kong Attitude without using too many ults, but quickly, then that's a win for them.
Well, they are managing to get themselves almost the ninja cap there, got it halfway around, and now the efforts of Hong Kong Attitude going to be forced back. But look at this Dragon Blade just cleaving so many of these SunSister players. XQQ does hit his tactical visor. There is indeed that transcendence from Mango as well to really help them push on through. But SunSister, under the noses of HKA once more, get themselves the cap. And XQQ needs to survive off this here. The Discord Orb has found its mark. He's running for his life here. K4 doesn't want any of that there and will take him down.
The thing about ninjaing the cap, yeah, it's fantastic, it gets you some percentage points, but also it means you're also not committing everything to the fight. In Hong Kong Attitude, they're still somehow not quite cleanly winning this fight. They did commit a Dragon Blade and...
Oh, good sleep dart there as well. The sound barrier was used by Hong Kong Attitude. SunSister still in control of the cap here. They are indeed getting themselves back into the fight, picking up some kills here, demeching Jin Kao as well, and now SunSister on the offensive and in control.
This is great for SunSister right now. Got to get back up into position because you know Hong Kong Attitude will want to go through that high ground. K4, he's not close to that Dragon Blade just yet. In fact, Hong Kong Attitude threw out a lot of ults just to try and hold the point one last time. SunSister barely ahead though with that nano boost. They can throw it onto Zetman, but he will have to get a lot more value than the last nano Winston we saw.
I'd really like to see them throw that out into this next fight rather than waiting for XQQ with attack visor. We'll see if they go with it there. Now XQQ needs to land a lot of these shots in this engagement here. They need to protect him as well. Look at that pressure right onto XQQ, and as he tries to escape there, Night Owl's going to be the one to fall. K4 still chases him down and finds the kill, and Hong Kong with vindictiveness here all over SunSister, taking them out and the cap back as well.
Hong Kong Attitude not having to commit a huge amount to that either because they already used everything in the previous fight. Now they've got the Dragon Blade just to secure themselves the one remaining fight that SunSister realistically have. And once more, SunSister have hardly anything to counter that out. They will have the sound barrier in just a few moments, but surely Hong Kong Attitude won't fall into the same trap once more.
Well, Shylin throwing the Pulse Swarm out doesn't convert it into a kill, but this Dragon Blade's converting some kills, that's for sure. XQQ's out of this one, and he's so integral to this re-offense that they need to do here. Elu's sent back as well. Mollis quick to follow, and now 94%. SunSister trying to get themselves onto the point and really force the issue, but Hong Kong Attitude deal with that one swiftly.
And this is just going to be Hong Kong Attitude.
There's not even a contest. I really thought Odinkun might be able to get himself onto the point there, but in very decisive fashion, Hong Kong Attitude going to be taking out Nepal 3-0.
Finally we're seeing the results that we're expecting, right? This is Hong Kong Attitude just taking out SunSister as usual. SunSister showed a little bit of life during the third stage.
Oh, this is great here as well. So pretty to watch. Wiping them out immensely there. And I mean, K4 really just getting to go to town in these in this Nepal matchup here. Not much pressure being put onto him, and he's just having a field day with that sword.
Yeah, I mean, and there's not a huge amount stopping him right now. There's, if there's a sleep dart, I'm not seeing it connecting onto him. He's not getting put to sleep. The focus isn't on him. It's not like there's a nano boost keeping him alive either. The 50% damage reduction isn't there. So look, the ability to target him down is definitely there for SunSister, but usually they're running a soldier. So you are able to shoot, if you can hit a Helix rockets onto the Genji, suddenly K4 has less than half of his HP left. You can clean that up with your Winston, with your Tracer, and then shut that Dragon Blade down. Yeah, it's a big ask. It's not easy to do, but right now it's all that SunSister can really hope to do because they're not hitting these sleep darts if they're even running the Ana.
Well, I mean, that coordination as well, we see it there from Hong Kong Attitude. You know, Fireball have obviously made those leaps and bounds and improvements there, being able to contest with the dive of Hong Kong Attitude. But just there we see, obviously, the coordination coming through from Hong Kong Attitude really leaves SunSister in such a shaky sort of array of a fight when they sort of start playing out there. It looks like SunSister don't really know who they should be engaging on, who they should be protecting, and you see time and time again XQQ being forced out of a lot of these fights, not really being able to help. Mollis not putting enough pressure onto the back line himself there, and that is where obviously these players are really falling apart.
We've got to look at the difference as well, in terms of where they're falling apart, right? It all starts off every single one of these starting fights, and the difference between SunSister and Fireball in the previous series is that Fireball cut their losses when they know that they're losing a fight. They get out and they've maybe lost 3 people, okay, that's not the best result, but like you'll take it. But SunSister, when they lose a fight, they're either still committing or they're not retreating effectively, and they're still losing members. You can still see off the first fight, every single stage there, K4 had Dragon Blade. That's not usually the case if you're retreating effectively.
We're now moving on to map number 2. Will indeed be Hong Kong Attitude's pick, so it's going to be interesting, I think, Smite, to see, are they going to go back to Numbani? Obviously losing that one to Fireball. Do they want to test themselves again on Numbani, or do you think they're going to go for something a little bit different?
Look, I think Numbani is definitely a great option for them. This is a team that they're likely to first hold against, so Numbani is the best hybrid map you can pick for that. Hong Kong Attitude are still also happy to go to King's Row, but if they're favored any of these maps right now, it's got to be Numbani. SunSister also haven't shown anything to be worried about on that map, right? They've quite often been first held by teams on it. They haven't put up a great defense either, quite usually losing the first point as well, giving up all 3 checkpoints. So Hong Kong Attitude should be happy to go to Numbani, but after that performance, I've got to say it's not likely that the map pick is going to have a huge factor on the outcome.
Well, I mean, if they do go to King's Row, XQQ's Widowmaker has been eventful at times there, has played a very good role at obviously baiting some offenses in, but also been very aggressive at landing some shots. So I think maybe the Widowmaker could be a very big key for success. But having a look back onto Nepal here, got a little bit of a replay here, and you see how Hong Kong Attitude get control of that left side of the map very, very quickly. No contest coming through from SunSister.
Yeah, I mean, look at the limited space that SunSister have as well, right? You've got barely anywhere to retreat to. There's so much room for Hong Kong Attitude to jump straight on top of you. And where are you going to run back into the health pack room? That's not a huge advantage at all. You're cutting yourself off from line of sight from your healers as well. So you also have no option of moving onto the point, contesting it, or even shooting anyone that's actually standing on the point. In fact, Hong Kong Attitude could simply leave someone on there.
But as I was saying before this replay came up, XQQ's Widowmaker, I feel, could be the surprise deciding factor for SunSister coming into the hybrid map here, purely because obviously a lot of teams may underestimate his aim by quite a large amount, and obviously, once Widowmaker can find that opening pick, they will be able to get themselves an opening, which seems to be SunSister's, I guess it's something that they struggle with. When they do find that opening pick, they are very good at following up on top of it, but it's when they lose a player, that's when they sort of look in slight disarray.
It's something that Hong Kong Attitude definitely punish, right? When SunSister will lose a player and they still play into that fight, they still try and act like they can win it when their chances have dropped significantly, and it may be more favorable to just back off, try and retreat, go for another fight, because there's still time and control. This is going to be more of a factor when we come into hybrid next, but still on Nepal, we've got, this is on Village here, the engage, this is what happens every single time, right? The difference here is SunSister have a chance because they actually trade Winstons during this fight, but that just allows a little bit more room for the supports to get a bit more aggressive, and you've talked about this, Easy, right? The aggressive supports can get in there. They actually do a significant amount of damage as well.
The difference there actually being Xiaolin getting a lot more done than Mollis in these early engagements there. In the first sort of fight breaking out there, Mollis is sitting back with the rest of his team while Xiao's up on the high ground, building up a little bit of damage, attacking from the side. And then as Mollis tries to get up onto the high ground, Xiao's already around back and behind the rest of the SunSister squad and is easily able to do enough damage for K4 to follow up through there. So I mean, that replay was quite good in showing how Xiaolin's tracer play is much, much better than obviously Mollis's there. Mollis, by no stretch of the imagination, is one of the best tracers in the tournament, but if he can sort of position himself a little bit better, it's not like his aim is bad or anything. So the thing is, he needs to see the situation for what it is so slightly there, and if he can get himself in a little bit more aggressive positions, play a little bit more lone wolf, as it were, I think they're going to have a lot more success.
Yeah, it's recognizing the situation that you're in, right? Because I described it as both of these Winstons are now dead. You've got a little bit more room to move around where people actually have to aim at you to do damage to you. Winston is such an annoying threat when you're trying to, yeah, I got there. Such an annoying threat when you're trying to get into the back line, take down these healers, but now that he's not there, Mollis, and well, this is what Shailin did, but Mollis could have got into the back line and had a bit more free reign. He wouldn't have been under threat constantly, wouldn't have had a time limit on how long he's realistically got to stay there.
And I think that's the other thing as well that sort of tells the tale. You know, Hong Kong Attitude are very good at splitting the SunSister side apart. In a few of those replays, we sort of saw that happen. But they are very, very strong at making SunSister question, oh, we're getting hit from here, we're getting hit from here, we're getting hit from behind, above, left, and right. And the players sort of spread themselves apart and don't focus on an integral single target there. But we are going to be moving into map 2 very shortly, which will indeed be, obviously, Hong Kong Attitude's pick. And obviously, in these sort of hybrid maps, I think we've seen a bit more strength coming out from SunSister. When it comes to control, they haven't had such a strong showing there, but when it comes to things like, you know, I wouldn't so much say Numbani as in itself, but King's Row they've been pretty strong on. And speak of King's Row, Hong Kong Attitude have indeed picked it. So, SunSister with a good chance to take this one back and equalize the series, but Hong Kong Attitude looking very strong here.
Yeah, so you're right when you say that SunSister usually don't look fantastic on control anyway. It's usually when we get to hybrid and assault where they have surprised us before and taken maps off the teams above them. So if there's a time for them to do that for us against Hong Kong Attitude, it's when we come into King's Row. This is also a bit of a surprise for Hong Kong Attitude to pick, not because they're bad at it. Hong Kong Attitude are quite comfortable to go onto this map, but because this is the map that we've seen SunSister on the most, simply because it's one of the most picked hybrid maps by far. In fact, I think it dwarfs the other picks, more than double the second most. So SunSister have had a lot of practice on this map. A lot of teams have, but this is where you're not going to expect, oh, look, SunSister are going to be unpracticed on this. They've played it a lot. They've got a few unique strategies that they can pull out. I'm not sure if I want to see that just yet, but look, XQQ on the Soldier, in fact, I think he's actually surprised us on King's Row itself before, once SunSister settled him down on that hero.
So yeah, I think going into this one, if Hong Kong Attitude do underestimate SunSister, they might be in for a world of hurt. Obviously, XQQ's Widowmaker has been very, very stand out throughout the OPC. It's more if the rest of the team can sort of set themselves up into some strong positions and really initiate some of these strong fights. But obviously, Hong Kong Attitude sitting at number 4, coming up against our last place team in number 8. It's going to be SunSister. We're moments away from getting into King's Row. And now hopefully SunSister can turn something around, not let that first control map really get to them and come back swinging.
Yeah, there's no reason to worry about what happened in the first map. You know, toast is never going to be bread again, so you can go into this next map not worrying about what happened in control. It's a good saying, right? I like it.
That is so good.
Right, so going into hybrid, right, it doesn't matter what happened in control, it's a different map type entirely. Like you were saying, XQQ, is he going to bring the Soldier out? Very likely on defense. On attack, he could bring Soldier, he could bring Widowmaker. Widowmaker's a little bit more binary, but if he does get the shots, if he does get those kills, then his team has capitalized on it before. I'd like to see SunSister play in a style that gives him a lot more room, flushes the enemy team out from the defense, and he can find those kills. In fact, actually, I've heard players say that it's quite unpredictable where XQQ will be when he finds those shots. I've seen him walking through the hotel on the ground level, and teams have said, why would he be there? It's like when you get killed by some random player in solo queue and you're like, why was he even there? Like, why was he in this bad place?
That reminds me when he got that shot up into the window there and it was like that 1 pixel shot. And obviously the team's saying, you know, it's quite hard to play against him because we're not too sure about his angles that he's holding because he doesn't play like a regular Widowmaker. He plays very aggressive, very up in your face. And that's why I'd like to see if they are on the offense first and to bring this out, it is that basically surprise pick that can catch Hong Kong Attitude off guard.
Of course, Hong Kong Attitude, though, will be expecting it. They'll know that Widowmaker's definitely going to be on the table, and they've had a full week since we've seen that pixel shot that you were just referencing. So, look, they've got to expect XQQ could be anywhere. He could be in any position, but he's doing the scouting arrow. Is he going to swap to Widowmaker? It's going to be Soldier instead. I'm okay with this though. SunSister are going to want to play the escort guard, get him up to that high ground, and then essentially steal away the defensive position from K4.
Well, the thing is a couple of their supports nicely done there. Zetman makes his way back just to help some of those squishier heroes make their way across that walk of death in front of the statue. And now they do manage to group up and get themselves inside, so starting to look good for SunSister as they're looking to gain position.
And this is where a big test is going to come out for Arting. Does he dive in? Does he survive? Is he going to be able to contest this? Or do they just give up the high ground?
Oh, and look at this from SunSister, straight out the gate. Beautiful double now, and they have indeed gained themselves control. A Ting, though, with a great amount of contest up into the window, going to be pushing them back out of there. And Xiaolin taking down his counterpart Tracer on the Mollusk. So now he's going to get to go to work up in these back lines there. Zetman going to be able to catch him, though, before he can make his way to a health pack. So SunSister exploding out of the gate, might be able to get this first cap. Will Hong Kong Attitude re-engage?
And if I'm going to pick an MVP for that entire play there, it's going to be the power of friendship. SunSister as a team made that play. They got up there, stole the high ground. Yeah, they lost a few players in the end, but definitely out-traded. That is what I want to see out of SunSister on Kings Row. Consistent team-wide play like that, and they're actually a team to be reckoned with.
Now, onto the payload section. Maybe Hong Kong Attitude thinking, why did we pick Kings Row? SunSister are actually pretty darn good at Kings Row, but not when K4 finds Night Owl out the window. And look at this aggressive defense now coming out from Hong Kong Attitude, taking the fight right through the archway onto the payload, picking up that early kill and buying a lot more time, getting some charge out of this, and K4 still up in the high ground.
Yes, at some point you have to go back up there and actually contest them out of it, and usually that's the time when the payload is getting that guaranteed distance.
Oh, what a read there from Xiaoyu, catches that. The communication from HKA on another level right now.
And he does it again.
And look at this, SunSister need to be aware of Xiaoyu's position. They need to go weed him out.
Well, I mean, it feels like a bit of a deja vu with that second kill there, but it is Hong Kong Attitude just taking basically the earliest fight possible. In fact, they were winning the fight before the payload even reached the archway there. So SunSister...
Oh, XQQ, what a Helix rocket there onto K4. Surely now, this is going to be when SunSister need to work their way through and push in. They just need to weed out the sneaky Xiaolin. They've built up a lot of ultimates as well, Smite.
Yeah, XQQ has to be so careful, can't get taken out here, but with 2 kills already, this is enough for SunSister to just run in and brute force a fight.
Throws the pulse bomb into nothingness there, Mollusk, and now they surely should be able to de-mech Jin Kao as well. Look at this, Mollusk trying to chase it down, still has defense matrix up to work with. A Ting actually finds a few on the back lines there, but now SunSister answering back as they get a little too aggressive there. XQQ using his tactical visor, they're surely going to be able to make some movements on the payload here.
Hong Kong Attitude not only buying a lot of time and contesting this payload for an extended amount of time during this losing fight, but they also bought out an ultimate or two. Pulse bomb was used, tactical visor was used, so despite SunSister being clearly in control of the payload and this entire fight, Hong Kong Attitude have made the most out of this losing situation, and it's really going to come into play when they come and contest the payload once more.
But Mollusk, very aggressive, has already built himself up another pulse bomb. There has to be a huge pick now from Hong Kong Attitude to stop this one coming through into this next engagement. 98% now looking to set up. Oh,
no way!
With the self-destruct, the nano boost has now been thrown out onto a Ting. Surely they can deal with him here as well. He will be able to leap away. No, he won't, as XQQ's right there to deal with him. The pulse bomb came out from Mollusk there, didn't connect with anything. Now Xiaoyu falling as well. He did manage to demech Odinkun, but SunSister now building some momentum here on Kings Row, rolling on through, very close to capping this one over and moving on to checkpoint number 3, and it looks like it's going to happen, Smite.
And it doesn't even matter because it doesn't matter that they used the tactical visor earlier on. They just got a kill with a self-destruct. That should never happen, and they punished Hong Kong Attitude so severely for it, and it was a fight that they'd already committed into. Nano boost was already used, and tactical visor, it's coming up for the next fight, but we're already into the 3rd checkpoint. This is a monstrous push by SunSister.
Well, Night Owl's going to have that transcendence to help them get into this fight. They've got to keep an eye on Xiaolin. Oh, no, they don't, as he just runs straight up the front lines, and that pulse bomb not going to be working out at all. Now, XQQ with the tactical visor just before K4, but they are indeed set up on the side of Hong Kong Attitude. They do have a very solid defense position now, and it's going to be XQQ committing his tactical visor, but Hong Kong Attitude, they have the answer. They have the sound barrier and a tactical visor of their own, really going to be stopping the SunSister attack right here, as Hong Kong Attitude still dealing with these players as they jump in one by one. There comes Zetman now using the Primal Rage, possibly a little bit too early and definitely out of the Transcendence range, but it doesn't matter here as they're coming up with the kills, only losing Zetman here to K4. And now Mollis needs to come out with this one-on-one Tracer duel. If he can win this, it'll be huge. He does manage to get Xiao Lin there, the double boot from CQB, though losing Odinklin's mech. But SunSister picking up the kills, but they don't have a full team to keep this payload rolling through.
That was a good enough fight for SunSister, despite not winning it enough to get it all the way to the end. They got the additional bit of distance where now if they win one fight cleanly enough, they'll actually just get it all the way to the end. And I've got to commend the staggering of their ults during that. The tactical visor was out for K4, yet no Transcendence was used. We saw Zetman, he just said, it's cool guys, I've got the barrier, we can survive through that. And it was actually enough. The defense matrix was there too. And then they could use Transcendence later on.
Oh, now that self-destruct comes through for the side of Hong Kong Attitude, doesn't connect, but they already take down Night Owl as SunSister scatters everywhere to get away from that self-destruct. And now XQQ taking down that tactical visor from K4, finding enough there, because without this damage, surely there'll be no attack from SunSister.
SunSister, because they pushed up so fast, they do have multiple attempts at getting into this last checkpoint here. So Hong Kong Attitude, they do have to worry about staggering their ults out a little bit. They need to make sure that they've got enough tools. Remember, they don't have a Zenyatta, so they don't have Transcendence. Instead, they're going to have to rely entirely on Sound Barrier.
Oh, the Pulse Bomb destroying Zetman, stopping this attack before it even starts once more. And look at the Xiaolin, 14 HP, not even scared, looking to push up and get himself some more charge as well off the back of that great pickup there onto the Reinhardt.
Now, SunSister swapping things up to the Reinhardt Roadhog triple tank composition here, and I definitely like it. A big thing about this is just because there's also straight lines. Oh, going to sleep, he's back awake. So the straight lines allow for easy earth shatters, but also with the Roadhog, you break the only thing that can stop the barrier, which is the Winston bubble.
Well, XQQ sitting on this tactical visor still. That biotic grenade right onto Zetman, almost managing to find that kill, but now the counter sound barrier for Hong Kong Attitude, not going to let this tactical visor do much there as K4 already waiting around the side, and Hong Kong Attitude once more just brick walling this offense from SunSister here.
Yeah, this is the biggest test for them right now. Yeah, you can take the first point, you can take the second point, and Hong Kong Attitude might not even do it as quick as you did on their attack. But if they get it all the way to the end, it doesn't matter at all. So look, Hong Kong Attitude, what is Xiaolin doing? He's so far backwards, just going to look for a cheeky pulse bomb kill, I suppose.
No, he's maybe going to go for a big one here. Now Mollis switching up to the Zaya, XQQ on the McCree. So looking for a bit of a wombo combo here. Will it be enough though? There comes the self-destruct, just blocked out in time by Zetman. There's the pulse bomb, doesn't fill through with anything there. And look at this, Xiaolin almost managing to finish this kill off here as well. The counter self-destruct now flying through, doesn't connect at all. And will SunSister commit? It looks like they want to go in here. And we've seen XQQ's McCree come up big before. Can he repeat?
Yeah, he definitely needs to find those left clicks, but you're right, it's all about that wombo combo. That's what they're building up for. They know that they're not likely to get too much more distance without an incredibly clean team fight when they're into overtime now. How much longer do they have to get these ultimates?
Well, they can't lose any players in this engagement. There's the Nano Boost. Nice flashbang to stop this one down. The Nano Boost going to be flying out onto Mollis so they can get this Graviton surge up. Even trades though there, a team being taken down, but they've lost XQQ. They've lost their damage here. Graviton surge being thrown out a little bit early. Nice biotic grenade as well from SunSister just to finish off these last couple of Hong Kong Attitude members. And now look at this sneaky beaky Xiaolin up in the back lines, really buying them a decent amount of time.
Once that barrier's gone,
will be holding on to this Earth Shatter. So pay attention to this. This is going to be the saving grace here for SunSister.
The thing about Reinhardt as well is that you can't just dance around the payload as a Lucio or a Tracer.
Here it comes. They throw it out very early there onto Mango. He's out of this one. The Mei coming through for Hong Kong Attitude just to buy more time once more. And indeed, somehow they get it across the line, SunSister.
SunSister pulling out all the stops in a spectacular fireball fashion, proving all of us doubters wrong that they can get it all the way to the end. But easy, they have not won just yet. They made it all the way to the end. They even did it during overtime. But Hong Kong Attitude, they are clearly quite capable of getting the same result, except actually having time left into the time bank, and that is where things could get a little bit frisky.
Well, we'll see if XQQ can set themselves up the brick wall, or is it just going to be knocked down?
Well, if it's anything similar to what SunSister did, first checkpoint, second checkpoint are going to be almost non-existent, but this is where SunSister can make the difference. If they can stop 1 or 2 pushes, that's going to be so much time that they're going to have added into their third checkpoint defense. They can easily bring at least a similar result for Hong Kong Attitude where they push it through in overtime. It's just going to be all about how well they can hold this first point. It's probably easier than the second checkpoint, but look, they've got 2 entire checkpoints to make a big difference and make that third checkpoint a lot easier on them.
Well, it looks like we see Roadhog and a Reinhardt as well, so I like this here as well. They just need to land that one hook and should surely be able to stop this first attack in its tracks here if they can come up big. But obviously, if Hong Kong Attitude go with that sort of dive composition that they're so well known for, things might be difficult if they do manage to get the side of SunSister caught on the ground there, actually running triple tank.
Yeah, triple tank, the one weakness is that you cannot just easily fly up to that balcony anymore. Your soldier becomes a lot more vulnerable. You have to worry about, you have to make the decision of when do I jump down? When can I stay? How long can I survive? Because you're also not running a diva in this triple tank either. So no one's going to be able to fly up and save you. You have to jump down when it gets too hectic.
But K4 going to be playing the Genji and not the soldier, so won't be able to just rain death up from the high ground, so Hong Kong Attitude won't be putting too much pressure onto that, just trying to get K4 out of the window.
Now, this second push is actually quite important for Hong Kong Attitude if they don't just take it straight away, because that's going to be when Hong Kong Attitude will have some DPS ults up, but SunSister won't, because the tank ults actually take a fair amount of time to build up. Reinhardt very often won't get the hammer swings on, but this first dive is going to be important.
Oh, and they've managed to push SunSister back into the archway, so they're stacking up a fair amount here, and obviously if Hong Kong Attitude can sustain themselves through this fight, they're going to be able to easily deal with SunSister, and look at that, they've just pushed them all the way back. They've turfed them out completely here. No kills being made, but it doesn't matter. Now SunSister are going to need to re-engage, and as they do, a Ting and the rest of Hong Kong Attitude there just to completely cleave through them, and K4 with an extremely fast Dragon Blade. And the cap's already done there, and now SunSister falling apart here on their defense.
Well, Hong Kong Attitude did it. They got a better first push than SunSister did and then cleaned up the majority of the team. The difference here is that Hong Kong Attitude on their defense actually came in and contested the archway for about an entire fight. So look, SunSister, they're already a little bit on the back foot here. They're going to have to contest in the middle around the bookstore if they're lucky. But you can see Shaolin in the distillery room up there waiting to find a cheeky pulse bomb.
But Hong Kong Attitude as well, holding all of these ultimates as well. So if they cycle through them, the momentum that they can really roll through these streets is going to be very clean for them there. SunSister going to need to bait out some of these and then try to fall back. But look at K4 around the side on the flank. They're looking to set up for a Dragon Blade. And there's that pulse bomb. Doesn't connect to anyone just yet. Nicely timed Biotic Grenade as well, helping that sustain. There's the Transcendence. Now Hong Kong Attitude definitely want to go in onto this one. They don't have that Graviton Surge. There's the Dragon Blade. Sound Barrier not going to be able to keep them alive through this. And here comes Hong Kong Attitudes. They're going to easily be able to walk over SunSister's defense here as well. Much like SunSister's offense.
Difference here is that Hong Kong Attitude haven't lost a single member this entire round. They are still completely alive. They're going to have more time on the third checkpoint than SunSister had by far. The difference is SunSister finally in this round are coming up to their ultimates, that Graviton Surge, but they have to be worried about Jin Kao. If he eats it up, then that is completely over for their match. They've lost so many resources.
All the eggs in one basket here, relying on Mollis to come up with a huge Graviton Surge, and look at Shai just scouting out the area now, looking to drop the Pulse Bomb on the heads of SunSister. There comes that Graviton Surge. What can they do to follow it up? There's the Pulse Bomb onto XQQ. No damage there. There is a nano boosted Zetman up in the front, but as that Graviton ends, no one to hit his hammer with. Oh, very close there, almost getting taken out by the self-destruct. And here we go again. Transcendence from Hong Kong Attitude as they look to get in on this. Nice charge, buying them a little bit more time, but Zetman caught out without the rest of the SunSister side. No support, gets taken out as well. XQQ dead again in his tracks. Hasn't really been a part of these fights at all. Mollis just trying to retreat there, only on 50 charge, and now K4 so close to yet another Dragon Blade, looking to just take out a few of these retreating SunSister players. Indeed, doing so well.
SunSister have still yet to kill a single member of Hong Kong Attitude. We were impressed by their attack, but Hong Kong Attitude are just blowing that out of the water entirely. This is the moment for SunSister to come back in for a final defense, but with no ults except Sound Barrier, how long can they last?
Well, there it is there. K4 with the Dragon Blade looking to cut through the barrier. He does indeed get enough work done with it, as now SunSister finding themselves some kills, and surely HKA do not have enough sustain to stay on the point.
Sound barrier, just barely enough for them to take out a fight win. Actually, you know, it's not barely enough. They won that pretty convincingly, and it was enough for XQQ to build up to Tactical Visor. So, hanging on by a thread here in King's Road. This is where SunSister will have to make their stand if they want to take out a win here. They have to find value. They have to keep XQQ incredibly safe. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of areas for him to be so protected.
Well, and look, as you can see right there as well, a team trying to hunt him down. XQQ forced all the way back to the spawn almost here, now just lying in wait, seeing when is going to be the right time to drop this Tactical Visor. But K4 taking out Mollis is not the start that SunSister were looking for on this last-ditch defense.
And there's a Pulse Bomb about to come up as well. The Sound Barrier triggers the engage for Hong Kong Attitude.
Shiolin's Pulse Bomb, absolutely huge. They're taking out both supports. The self-destructs on both players there, not really enough to find what they needed actually, as Odinkun didn't actually get his off, and now they are indeed walking over the SunSister defense there. Mollis not going to be around to contest. What can they do? Can he get back in and throw his body onto the point? It is going to be Odinkun, but Mango Jai easily dealing with this one with a Ting and the rest of the boys all over this payload here. It's just frantic defense coming through from SunSister and Hong Kong Attitude with 2 minutes 50 left on the clock. They can do this all day, Smite.
They can indeed, and there it is, finally capping it over the point. And that was an impressive attack coming out from Hong Kong Attitude. The first point, it felt like SunSister didn't even want to be there because they were so pushed back by Hong Kong Attitude. The aggressiveness, the positioning from the attacking team there just gave SunSister no room at all to come back in.
They really needed to be, I feel, a little bit more decisive in that engagement, in that first engagement there, and try to sort of go for a pick, even though Hong Kong Attitude had really forced their way into the point. But once they got themselves caught in that archway there was no one really flanking around from the sides. And Hong Kong Attitude were really easily able to deal with them on that first archway. But going into Time Bank now, obviously, SunSister won't have a lot of time to work with at all.
Now, one team has a heck of a lot more time than the other one. And it's going to be a very, very tough ask for SunSister to come in here. It's possible. We saw them actually come through with less than a minute on their first push. So it's likely that they could do it again if they do the same thing. But Hong Kong Attitude surely have learned what's going on. And also, when Hong Kong Attitude come in, they are going to have a whole lot more time. But
what is that,
Easy.
Orisa? What is that, Orisa? What is that sneaky Orisa?
Easy, I think we're in for a bit of a treat here.
Oh, SunSister going for a little bit of the cheesy.
Well, that's going to be rather interesting there. So look, it's interesting, right? You put a shield in front of the turret, and it almost acts as an extra player, right? It's so annoying to shut down. You've got to take down the barrier, but then because this is on the new patch, Orisa actually has more frequent shields at lower hit points, but you can continuously just refresh them. And mathematically, it actually recharges faster than a Reinhardt shield. So you've now got an Orisa walking down, doing damage, bringing up heal, and then a turret that's almost exclusively protected.
Well, I applaud SunSister here, looking to get that hold onto point 1. But Jinkao dealing with the turret already. Let's see if Hong Kong Attitude are going to go in off the back of this. Looks like they're still just trying to gain a little bit more intel here, but they've already reversed positions now with SunSister. Now SunSister look like the attacking squad.
Yeah, but there's that turret set up once more. SunSister, yes, they are buying themselves a fair amount of time. They can only give away 1/3 of the point and they'll lose, so they have to keep someone on the point. That's usually the reason for a few more tanks on the point. Molten Core is now going to be available. Hong Kong Attitude don't have a whole lot of ults to work with just yet, so they have to deal with this turret first. They've dealt with the Torbjorn, that's the first step.
Very good there as they managed to find Night Owl as well. Mollis quick to follow here. A Ting just jumping around on 30 HP, not being finished off by anybody. XQQ and his Orisa taken out as well. There's K4 just to seal the deal, and they surely will cap this out 1/3 through. Easy peasy, and that's going to be that.
Easy, we are coming up to map 3, and this is potentially the very last match we're going to see Hong Kong Attitude in Season 1 of the OPC. They looked fantastic there on King's Row. A little bit to be desired on the defense, but look, SunSister played well on their attack. You've got to give them credit for that. The first checkpoint take was great. Second checkpoint, apart from that one thing at the start, They actually did pretty well there. But like a lot of teams, they did get held up at the third checkpoint. So SunSister, we've got to give them credit, but unfortunately, Hong Kong Attitude just pulled out the attack so much better.
And I mean, there we see it, the retreat coming out from SunSister there when they really needed to be the ones aggressing onto Hong Kong Attitude. You know, it's just little situations like that where they're kind of like, do we go in? Do we go out? Do we go in? Do we go, okay, we're going out. Oh no, and we're all stacked up. And I mean, you see it there, you know, K4 getting to go to work on them. But you're so very right, Smite, in regards to their offense. I was blown away that they even got all 3 caps. So I mean, in itself, they should be feeling pretty happy about that.
Absolutely right. I mean, like, look, before the series started, we said SunSister are going to have to be happy to get 1 or 2 map takes on during this series. Maybe a series win if they're really pulling everything out, but that performance as well, they can be happy with that. I'd still like to see them pull out a map win here against Hong Kong Attitude. It's still definitely possible because, look, we thought Fireball were just going to be 3-0'd by Hong Kong Attitude. So if Fireball can bring it back for a 3-1, then SunSister can take a map. Especially now that we're going to be going to Assault, it's going to be SunSister's pick, and I think we may be going to Temple of Anubis again because they've shown favors for that. XQQ on the Widowmaker will come up once more, but we'll talk about that once we actually know the pick, because of course SunSister, you know, they're going to pick Anubis. I'm calling it now.
You call it, well, I mean, you have been our map prophet throughout the OPC, I feel. It will be very good to see if XQQ brings out that Widowmaker into this Anubis, because obviously didn't go with it there in Kings Road. Didn't actually need it though, because their offense was indeed very strong. They did roll with a lot of momentum as well through that Streets phase. Didn't really have much defense to deal with as well. Obviously first point was quite a walkover for them as well. But as we move forward, can SunSister pick themselves up a win here against Hong Kong Attitude? I hope so, Smite. I hope so.
I also want to see them perform well even on the maps that they don't quite win, right? So Control wasn't fantastic for them. It's a bit of a shame that they couldn't pull much out there. Kings Row, though, like I said, they can be very happy with that because they're going to have to take all of this into their next match, which is the most important match of the OPC, ladies and gentlemen. They will be playing Detonator next, and it's the one match where SunSister is not just counted out, right? Where it's not going to take a miracle for them to win, right? SunSister can beat Detonator. They've come close before, and with a performance like that, I've got to say that they've definitely shown improvement. Even last weekend, they've shown improvement as well, all coming up to this as well. So even if they're not going to take a map against Hong Kong Attitude, in this next map, on Assault, I want to see them do well. I want to see them get all the way up to that second cap and give it a good go.
Well, the thing here as well is that this is obviously a really good warm-up for SunSister. You know, if they do obviously drop the series to Hong Kong Attitude, you know, coming up against them is a lot more of a polished and refined team compared to Detonator Gold. And so they are going to be having their, I guess, reactions tested. You know, they're going to be feeling very good, I guess, coming up against Detonator Gold. And we know that they obviously want to beat that sister team of theirs from Japan.
Yeah, all the way back to the intro videos, but we'll take a look at some more Kings Row in this replay here. This is actually going to be where SunSister were held up for most of their attack, right? This is an overtime. They did actually end up winning it here, and you can see how they're actually quite split up. That Graviton Surge there on the left is a result of Jinkao flying away to the right, and immediately Mola says, wow, there's no defense matrix in the way. Can I catch anyone over on the other side? Yes, they're over on the left-hand side. It catches enough members for them to get a numbers advantage, and in fact, actually, Zetman built up enough ult charge from that as well, just to get an Earth Shatter, which is enough usually to secure the final moments of this payload.
Yeah, I mean, taking out K4 and Mango in that Graviton was pretty huge there. And I mean, K4 on the May trying to find, you know, buy them a little bit of time, but obviously not enough. Still, SunSister can walk away, I suppose, happy with that, actually finishing off Kings Row and not getting first held. That in itself is a victory for them.
Yeah, I mean, the other difference as well on that final push, having a Reinhardt just shoves away all of those annoying, flimsy heroes that jump around the payload, buying more time for the defenders, the Lucios, the Tracers. You're just swinging your hammer and...
Yeah, I think throughout that entire piece of offense, I don't even think we saw the shield up very long. He's just consistently just going...
You're playing janitor, right? You're cleaning up the remnants of the defense, right? And it's so much better than when you're running a dive composition. Yeah, Winston can kind of do it, but not nearly as effective as Reinhardt, who just does more damage as well. So it's a bit of an advantage having that hero there. So the second replay is going to be, should be Hong Kong Attitude on their first attack, I believe. And this is where, look, SunSister
Look at
just
that
give
positioning.
up. They give up so much of the point here where they need to make a decision here. Either like, look, we cannot contest this and we don't want to give away too much ult charge, or we're going to go back in with the shields on and try and contest, but they go in a little bit too late. And okay, so they do actually go in here, but immediately they just get forced back. And because of the lack of time or the lack of pressure that they had for the majority of that point, they immediately lose someone. The shields were on cooldown or broken down. So Hong Kong Attitude immediately took them out. And then from that point as well, like seconds after that, that was where we saw play of the game. And SunSister didn't have time to get out.
Exactly that, and as well, XQQ being on the low ground there as well. Hong Kong Attitude doing such a great job at obviously clearing out that high ground, then taking the fight straight to SunSister. And then SunSister, the thing is that they don't reposition quickly and well enough there. They kind of get caught through that archway, and it's very sort of disappointing to see when you know that they have the skills, like the mechanical skills to really sort of fight with Hong Kong Attitude. It just comes to these on-the-fly decision sort of making errors that SunSister time and time again seem to fall into.
It's a bit of a shame, but in any case, look, SunSister, they gave a good showing on King's Row, I've got to say. On the attack, they did fantastically.
Most definitely, and we'll see when we come back if SunSister can pick themselves up a win against Hong Kong Attitude. Hong Kong Attitude leading the series 2-0. When we return, it's going to be SunSister's pick after a quick break. Hello and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. I'm Dallas Easy Fight Today. Joining me here, Matt Smite Ross, and it is indeed the final day of round robin play. Also, we are currently watching the last time we're going to be seeing Hong Kong Attitude play in the OPC. The currently ranked 4th place team are taking on SunSister, who are currently the 8th place team. They are currently leading the series 2-0, and as we can see, obviously Hong Kong Attitude have been very dominating throughout this series, and not only that, very strong showing in this tournament, 15-12, looking to make that 16.
SunSister, though, to their credit, in King's Row, they had a great attack. It exceeded what we thought was going to happen. We were expecting Hong Kong Attitude to just fully hold them, or at the very least, make them spend so much time getting all the way to the 3rd checkpoint. But SunSister, they pulled it out, they got it all the way to the end. Unfortunately for them, Hong Kong Attitude kinda had somewhere to be, so they went all the way through to the 3rd checkpoint with over 2 minutes remaining. So they won in the time bank, but SunSister, they really gave us a bit of a show.
Well, SunSister going to be the home side team, and they are going to be picking Volskaya Industries. So we are going to be heading over there in just a moment. But what does SunSister have to really change up coming into this Smite?
Right, so this is a little interesting that they've picked Volskaya. I was expecting Anubis for XQQ Widowmaker reasons. I'm not certain if we'll see that. It is an option on attack for them to do, but it's not something a lot of teams would usually do, so it would be a surprise. But if they bring it out, if they bring out something a bit more standard, it's going to be the Soldier coming out. Actually, another option would be bringing out Mollis on Roadhog, XQQ on the McCree, and finding the Sombra and just shutting him down. Shutting Mango down as he's moving in, trying to get some poke damage on himself, charging up the EMP. You throw out a hook, you throw out a flashbang. That's one of the best things to stop a Sombra in their tracks. You just one-shot them during the CC, and then suddenly EMP doesn't matter for the first fight.
And I mean, we saw obviously Hong Kong Attitude take on Fireball just prior on Temple of Anubis, and I could probably see that's why SunSister don't really want to go for that one there. They've seen obviously Hong Kong Attitude are quite strong on Anubis there, so this I think is where obviously SunSister feel obviously most at home, and this is where they're going to be able to sort of, we've seen them bring out Sombra before, but most other teams, put their support players onto that Sombra, and when we've seen SunSister do it, essentially their best player, their main DPS generally plays that Sombra, and I think that is a very sort of questionable decision coming through.
So recently what they've been doing actually is they do put XQQ on the Sombra if they do bring it out, but Night Owl actually swaps off of the support and moves on to Tracer instead. And then they've got Mollis on whatever other DPS they're going to be running. Yeah, Soldier or Genji, depending on what they want to run. But that's how they do it. So they do still end up with the 2 DPS and the Sombra and support. So it's a lot better in my opinion. You still continue to have enough damage and you still have just enough healing with the Sombra, but Again, yeah, it's like you said, the star DPS player, the guy that has had all of your fans hyped up, has been the reason that we've been hyping up SunSister earlier on in the OPC, but he's now on the Sombra where it's a little bit harder to get all these cool flashy plays. Bit of a different play style.
Well, we're just moments away from getting into Volskaya Industries, which obviously SunSister have picked. Hopefully they can get themselves back in the series, currently trailing 2-0. Really hoping to see XQQ not bust that Sombra out. Really want them to stick with the Soldier, even a defensive Widowmaker if they are choosing to defend first. Really something that he can do a little bit more work on, I feel.
Defensive Widowmaker would be, that would be punished pretty heavily by Hong Kong Attitude. It's just too hard to be in a position for Widowmaker where the diving heroes aren't just going to be all over you. So instead, if he's going to bring it out, attack would be the place to do it. But I'm feeling a bit of a compositional change here from SunSister. Like I said, that Roadhog, that McCree is definitely something that could be on the table when they attack first. Well, if they attack first.
I was about to say, I'd really like to see SunSister also bring out their triple tank, but also that wasn't too strong on their Kings Road defense, really got walked over in that first point, so...
Triple tank's a little awkward to run with a Sombra because then you really start lacking a lot of damage or at least healing, depending on what you choose to opt out of, but teams usually will run a Sombra on both points for defense here. We've seen occasionally teams opt out of it, but if there is a team that's going to do it, SunSister might be one of them, but right now it's going to be pretty hard to tell which team is actually going to be defending first. They're likely to run similar things on the defense. I think that's a Genji there, so I'd say that's actually likely to be Hong Kong Attitude on the defense first. Is that a Genji? I swear I saw one. Yes.
It's going to be Mollis bringing out the Genji here. So, as you mentioned before, it's not going to be Mollis bringing out the Soldier. As I mentioned, rather, I thought Mollis would be playing Soldier. But going to be bringing out the Genji. See Knight out there on the Tracer as well, as you mentioned. So, the triple DPS for SunSister, obviously, you know, XQQ bringing out the Sombra. Let's see if he can come up big.
XQQ is actually quite an aggressive Sombra, always getting into the face of the enemies, making sure he gets that EMP charged up as soon as possible. So I can't wait to see how well he plays it. He also always gets out alive. And against Hong Kong Attitude's composition, they don't have Roadhog, they don't have McCree. The one-shots aren't really going to be there. The worst thing that you're going to be worrying about is something like a Sleep Dart catching you as you come out of stealth.
So we're going to get right back into the game here a little bit. Too much DPS coming through at the start of this matchup here. And it's going to be K4 picking up the first kill of the round here onto Night Owl. Obviously not the usual Tracer player, gets caught by a Helix Rocket.
And they've already stormed the Sombra health pack room as well, so they might not have the health pack, but SunSister surely don't. They have charged up that EMP. Instead, there it goes. They need to take advantage of it.
And there it is, Hong Kong Attitude in very convincing fashion, doing a great start into this first point attack, but they do lose K4 in the process. Now Mollis' sound barrier not going to be able to keep him alive through this, as Hong Kong Attitude coming out on top, only losing one, getting themselves now the first cap. Can they roll through into the second?
Well, they lost that one fairly convincingly, but the important thing there is that they threw out the EMP just to try and win the fight there instead. So now Hong Kong Attitude can storm onto the second point with some ultimate advantages. And look at that, on each side of their roster there, Nano Visor is going to be on the table here. That's going to be the biggest thing here. So it's going to be completely on a Denkin. He needs to shut that down.
And you can see Hong Kong Attitude now looking to get that high ground position, looking to set K4 up for a big tack visor. They just have to deal with Odin Kun's mech, and then things should be getting popping here. They're not even going to wait for that. They're going to drop the nano visor instantly, but good reaction from Odin Kun here, just jumping right on top of him, and that's what you want to see. They have to be using that self-destruct, and now SunSister answering back here, taking out Shayu, taking out Mango as well, and Mollis still holding the Dragon Blade, forcing Hong Kong Attitude back.
Really have to commend the tanks there for SunSister. Zetman and Odenkin getting in the face of K4 immediately. Just no hesitation at all. Barrier plopped in front of him. The defense matrix. And then even when he manages to take down the mech for Odenkin, the self-destruct's there just to get another free mech anyway. So great play out of there. They've used a lot of resources up for Hong Kong Attitude. Now they just have to survive the wave of the Pulse Bomb. If that picks up a kill, then Hong Kong Attitude could come in, but they still have Mollis with the Dragon Blade.
But Shayu has been very sneaky throughout the series here, now looking to get himself in this flanking position. Look at this. He's going to catch one of these players. I think that's Elu up there being a little bit sneaky. And then if he can really get in on him, drop the pulse bomb, it's going to open things wide up for Hong Kong Attitude.
Well, but they've gone in. SunSister have taken the fight outside, but he's just capping the point.
Well, that's decent there as Mollis obviously hits the Dragon Blade with a bit of flashy play, but they're almost at 1/3 here. They've actually got themselves to 1/3 as Xiaolin. Absolute sneaky beaky here, just capping this one out all by his lonesome. Might even be able to escape or just reset.
Wow, okay, so that's a big punish for how aggressive SunSister were playing. Usually that's a great decision to take a fight out there. It's out in the open, you can get a big EMP, and then we actually saw Mollis went pretty huge with that Dragon Blade. So all things considered, that's where you take a good team fight. But Hong Kong Attitude could see the way that SunSister were inching forwards, they wanted to take a fight outside, and Xiaolin just got on the back line, took advantage of it.
And still holding onto the pulse bomb, so let's see who he can find to open this fight up. But SunSister have had some time now to build ultimates here. Now watch out for XQQ's EMP, but they've already lost Night Owl before he can even throw the pulse bomb out. Odinkun with no mech here, so if K4 can get that attack visor up, which indeed he does, when is he going to opt to use it? It's going to be right now, and oh my goodness, that sound barrier won't be able to keep everyone alive through this, as Hong Kong Attitude are just mauling onto the point. Indeed, there goes Zetman. Elu quick to follow now, the EMP just a little bit too late there. Frantic play coming out from SunSister, looking to keep themselves alive. Now Hong Kong Attitude getting themselves halfway through this cap. Self-destruct thrown out here. Barrier nicely blocked. And this is now disaster again for SunSister.
Yeah, they've picked up 1 kill onto Hong Kong Attitude, taking out CQB from the fight. That would have been a sound barrier, which would have been huge. But Hong Kong Attitude still have a huge numbers advantage, picking up kills even with self-destruct. They are just simply securing themselves on the point. And eventually, CQP is going to arrive back anyway, and there's the sound barrier.
And that's exactly what they need. They need to get this cap done quickly, though, because they can't stay here forever, as they're so close to getting back onto the point, SunSister. It's going to be Zetman being able to get out here, but he's still actually a long way away from Primal Rage, so him getting taken down quickly into this fight is going to be very easy now for Hong Kong Attitude to cap this one over, just a millimeter away from getting it, and that's going to be that. And with 2 minutes 50 left on the clock, Hong Kong Attitude get the double cap.
Well, that's pretty impressive coming out for Hong Kong Attitude. Their first attack was shut down pretty well by SunSister when they, onto the second point, of course, the Nano Visor getting pretty much 0 value. But the fact is, that could have been only 2/3 capped for Hong Kong Attitude if they didn't get that free third earlier on. Xiaolin playing such a Metal Gear Solid game there on Tracer, just hiding in the background. And yeah, the rest of his team got wiped for it, but getting a third for free, that's massive, and that's something that should never happen.
Yeah, a little bit of tunnel vision coming out from the side of SunSister. Now going to be on Hong Kong Attitude to really hold this one down. I do expect them to do it quite well on the first point. Obviously, when they do play their Sombra, it's usually never obviously K4, and that's the big strength that you have when you put your support onto the Sombra.
Exactly right, and then also moving in, Hong Kong Attitude took the first point pretty much instantly, right? I mean, the fight took a little while, but it was one fight. And once they took the point, they had so much time to work with on the second point. So even if SunSister eventually get this first point, if they don't do it in the first 1 or 2 pushes, they'll already be at a severe disadvantage.
Well, it looks like it's going to be K4 on the Soldier, I'm feeling, which I'm very happy to see coming out from the side of Hong Kong Attitude. Be interesting to see what SunSister opt to go with for their offense, because as you mentioned, Smite, they do need to come in very convincingly and very quickly to get themselves onto that second point, because you know they're going to be having a struggle with that. What is that XQQ Junkrat? Do it! Do it!
No,
do it!
It's not going to happen. I mean, actually, after yesterday, anything could happen, where we saw the Junkrat Orisa Bastion. But look, the time is ticking down. Is he really going to do it?
Surely he's going to Soldier.
He's actually staying on it.
Yes! Here we go, so a bit of a mix-up from SunSister here. Let's see if the offensive Junkrat can come through and blow the pants off Hong Kong Attitude.
So let me talk about what he can do. He can actually just bombard this health pack room just relentlessly. He needs to stay safe while he does it, but he can just completely deny the area down there, and then the defending team won't be able to use that health pack at all for charging EMP.
All right, so some of those defensive moves now down for the side of Hong Kong Attitude. No barrier up. Still a little bit in the defense matrix here, but already getting pressured by Xiaolin. There's the defense matrix back in action. He's not being able to throw out any grenades here at all, with the rotation of these defensive abilities from Hong Kong Attitude really stopping this Junkrat play in its tracks here. XQQ solo gets taken out, and Hong Kong Attitude edging ahead in this first engagement there. You gotta love the Junkrat effort coming through from SunSister, but the beautiful play from Hong Kong Attitude just dealing with the Junkrat, not letting any of those grenades do anything at all.
Defense matrix as well into a single area where Junkrat might have a strength, that has a strength too. Any bombs in there are just not going to get any value at all. And
Mango Jai blown off the face of the planet.
That's another thing that Junkrat can do, the insta-kills, taking out Sombra before the transponder is able to be used. This is where SunSister can go in with a numbers advantage.
And Mango Jai was holding that EMP as well, so if they can get themselves set up, watch out for that pulse bomb there. Doesn't connect at all, and now this is great stuff here for SunSister. They need to pick themselves up a second kill though, before this EMP gets back in and is gonna really make their day not a great one.
I mean,
there it is. And he's managed to trap someone in here. It's going to be a ting. Can they do a thing and take him down? Doesn't look like it there, as Hong Kong Attitude answer back off the back of Mango Jai's EMP, finding all of these kills. And now K4 with the tactical visor and the high ground position. It's going to be so hard now for SunSister to get in on this next offense, but they've got a rip tire.
Oh, a rip tire. Oh, it's gonna have to be an absolutely massive one. I mean,
it's gonna have to be a ripper.
Riptire has been rated quite often as one of the worst ultimates in Overwatch. It's quite easy to counter. You can shoot it down quite often. You've also got K4, who's just very easily gonna shoot it down. That's the biggest thing to worry about. And then also, it's just so loud. You know exactly where it's coming from. So, unless there's just a completely chaotic fight where no one can counter this ult out, I don't think XQQ is even going to consider using it.
Well, SunSister, 2 defensive ultimates there, got that nano boost and the sound barrier to work with as well. As I say that, though, CQB just gets the sound barrier for Hong Kong Attitude as well. Here comes the EMP into self-destruct, double kill there for Jin Kao. Tactical visor from K4 as well, picking up a double. CQB will be finishing them off, and a ting taking the mech. Hong Kong Attitude, just like they're taking Volskaya right now, very decisively.
Well, with only a minute to go, SunSister on the final ropes here against Hong Kong Attitude, who in their final match are just looking to pick up one last win here. SunSister bringing out something unique. XQQ clearly wanted to bring this out for a long time, and we're finally getting to see it. But like I said, Junkrat's Riptire is not a huge ultimate.
Oh, looking to get this kill here onto Shayu. Can't finish it off as Shayu's far too elusive for these very slow grenades here from the Junkrat. And now we really want to see, I want to see a Riptire. We need to see it come through. Here it comes, the Riptire. He's going to get a big one, surely. Here we go, boys, and it gets absolutely nothing.
Gets a mech. Didn't even get the mech.
And Hong Kong Attitude with the sound barrier, keeping themselves alive through this engagement here. SunSister slowly getting bled out of this fight. Shayulin again just so strong on this Tracer. No one can really find anything to deal with him here, especially not with the Junkrat. Now XQQ bringing out a Tracer of his own. 5 seconds left. Hong Kong Attitude's final match of the OPC. Are they going to be exiting with style? It's an explosion coming through from Shayu and a win on Volskaya, winning this 3-0. And what an exit from Hong Kong Attitude.
What an exit indeed. 3-0. This is what we were expecting as well. And they managed to somehow weather the storm that is XQQ's Junkrat, but they did it in spectacular fashion. First holding, barely even giving away a third of the point. This is a team that you need to watch out for in the next season.
Most definitely, obviously finishing up their OPC run third. Very clean play. Coming out from Hong Kong Attitude, obviously hitting a little bit of a slump, but coming back with strength. I mean, losing that match to Fireball, though, I don't think that's Hong Kong Attitude playing badly. I think that's Fireball obviously stepping up to the plate.
Look, even if it is dropping one match, though, it is just one match, and as long as they come back from it, as long as they improve their play, they've got some time. They've got enough time between now and the next OPC season to start improving whatever issues they had that caused them to lose to Fireball. So they've got time to fix that up, and it's good that they know now so that they can work on it.
But obviously SunSister coming off another disappointing loss. Taking a quick look at the standings now, just to see obviously what things are starting to look like. SunSister 0 for 27. Hong Kong Attitude sitting there on 16 and 12, finishing their run with a positive win rate. and now SunSister. That'll be a good warm-up for them, though, heading on for the rest of the night, as our next matchup is going to be SunSister taking on Detonator Gold. So this here, the grudge match of a century. If SunSister can pick themselves up a win to finish out the OPC, that would be so very great for them, and obviously Flash Wolves and Detonator Gold at the end of the evening.
SunSister, ever since the first day of the OPC, I believe it's Elu that said this. He has a friend in Detonator Gold, and I think it's Yoshiharu, and he said, I just want to beat them. I just want to beat this team. And it's the last team that they're going to be playing in the OPC, and if they can pick up a win there, it's going to be huge for their morale. So look, after their performance against Hong Kong Attitude, I'm not counting them out entirely at all. I think that they are a team that can take it to Detonator, who have struggled almost as much as SunSister, but both of these teams have shown a fair amount of improvement. Both of these teams have shown at least the potential to have good performances on certain maps, sometimes even taking maps off of teams above them. Fireball, Hong Kong Attitude, even Marchi. And I believe Detonator actually took a map off of AHQ earlier on in this round robin. So things like that can happen. These teams have shown improvement, but
Hong Kong Attitude going to be very happy, though, with finishing up at 4th place, obviously taking home a decent amount of prize money, but that will be the last time we will be seeing them in the OPC. Obviously, SunSister still have another match tonight, and obviously they will be playing in the relegation as well, so they're still not done just yet, but obviously Hong Kong Attitude going to have some time to go back to the drawing board, working out how they can get themselves up into that upper echelon, the big top 3, and I mean for Season 2, they're looking like they can do it. Well,
exactly right. I mean, they were one of the most impressive teams in the 4th round robin. Hong Kong Attitude just showed everyone up, and a lot of analysts, I know Avril's actually a really big fan of Hong Kong Attitude, had a lot of hope for them in the earlier rounds of the OPC, and now that they're finally performing, his expectations, I feel, have actually been met now. And this is a team that can still continue to go upwards as well. In fact, they have already been contesting these teams in the top 3. Yeah, one shaky match against Fireball, not the greatest thing to have your last day on, but again, it's only a single match, and like you also said, it's also Fireball playing well.
And I mean, it's going to be hard to sort of say for the side of Hong Kong Attitude who the, I guess, MVP was there coming into that series there. Who would you sort of feel? I would personally have to give it to K4. Oh, no, Shayu. I'm going to have to give it to Shayu in that one.
It's hard to toss up between K4 and Shayu, right? Because you've got Shailin, who's been quite consistent on the Tracer, moving in, getting the occasional pulse bomb. But for K4, when he played big, he played massive, and there weren't a lot of times where his ults were specifically shut down, so he was still getting value out of them, what you'd expect, and doing his job, but he'd have those occasional moments. King's Row was one of them, straight after they took the first point, where he just demolished them all with a Dragon Blade. So look, I'm calling for K4.
I think actually I'd have to agree with you there, even though I personally would pick Shaolin. K4 obviously just looked a little bit more flashy throughout the series there, so I can really see him picking up that that player of the match there. Overall, though, I mean, I was a little bit disappointed with their performance, you know, against Fireball, the two of the DPSs there. Obviously, against SunSister, they do look, you know, a lot better, obviously, but, I mean, them coming into this tournament, you know, they were really set, in my eyes at least, to be one of the better DPS duos. And now looking at their performance here, they're going to have to work on a fair bit moving into Season 2, but taking us back to Volskaya here, a little bit of a replay for us. This was SunSister's defense, I believe.
Yeah, this is SunSister on the defense, and this is just before Hong Kong Attitude actually capped the point, I believe. No, yeah. This is before they capped the point, and they'd already won a fight around here, and look, they've been coming in quite consistently, but the EMP there wasn't enough at all, because at that point, that was when SunSister had already mostly lost the fight. We saw Mollis didn't get anything out of his Dragon Blade because he died earlier on, wasn't able to capitalize on it too much, and from that point onwards, it was mostly just cleanup for Hong Kong Attitude.
And that was really just, I guess, the tale of the series here. You know, when SunSister get themselves, you know, a small little bit of a showing, they end up getting double self-destruct.
Double self-destructed.
Double self-destructed.
That's right. I mean, another part of that as well was K4 was for the most part, untouched. I mean, apart from their initial attack on the second checkpoint, where they did actually shut down his nanovisor, after that, he was not really answered very well, because at that point, SunSister had to focus so much attention on the point itself, so they didn't give away too much progress on it, and no one would touch him, as well as Mango sitting in the back line as well, just being able to heal so much. Anna can heal so much if she's not contested, and that's also part of the sustain that kept Hong Kong attitude on the point itself.
And I think also moving forward for SunSister, they really need to work out the roles of who's playing what there. I'm going to just go on about it again for just a slight moment. XQQ on the Sombra, not a big fan of it. Really need to keep him on his soldier, on his high DPS heroes. And I mean, this was that final fight there with the EMP coming through into the double self-destruct, tac visor to clean it up. XQQ not being able to do anything on the rat here at all.
Yeah, when you're all packed into one tiny room, EMP can be quite easy to hit. Also, I think that was around the time that Riptide came out too, and you know, we were chanting, do it, do it, do it, and we were quite happy to see it. But unfortunately for XQQ, there was a big Winston bubble in the way. He had to drive it around like quite a weird way, and then in the end, when he blew it up, there was, I think at best, a Diva in the way, and he didn't even demech.
I mean, it's not even really worth analyzing that ultimate. You know, it was obviously a massive meme in itself, the fact that we were like, oh, he's going to get everything with this, because, I mean, the only thing he's going to get is himself in that situation.
No, not as of a fairly recent patch.
Oh, really?
You cannot kill yourself with your own
That's so disappointing. That's probably the best thing about it.
It's the best part.
Oh!
Shailin, player of the match.
The underrated.
The underrated.
Not really, though.
So not quite as flashy as K4's plays, especially on King's Row. But look, Shailin, he was just consistently always there, consistently getting the job done as a tracer, getting into the back line, getting those squishy targets.
Getting a third of the cap by himself.
That I think actually, yeah, that would give him MVP.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was really going for. You know, him getting into sneaky spots, yeah, cool, mate, that's great. Tell your team where everyone's coming from. But that third cap by himself was...
The thing is, he does that quite a lot, right? Like, tries to get into just fun spots where you can just get a really surprising pulse bomb, and you know, sometimes it works. We've seen it work quite a lot. I think way earlier on against Blank, he just got a triple kill with one pulse bomb on Hanamura. But, but also, in other times, he'll do it and just get caught out, and his team is suddenly now down a member. So it's risky play, but it can pay off and look really cool at the same time.
Well, been a very exciting OPC there for Hong Kong Attitude. Have been an absolute joy to watch throughout the OPC, this obviously being their final match of the tournament here. So congratulations to them, obviously, for having such a strong performance, finishing in at 4th. SunSister will be coming up next, taking on Detonated Gold, and that one I feel is going to be going the distance. It's going to be an absolutely brilliant match, and then obviously to finish up the night, Flash Wolves taking on Detonated Gold. From me and Smite, this is going to be us closing out. When we return, obviously it's going to be Avril and Pixie taking you through the final 2 matches of the night. I've had an absolute blast this evening. Seeing Fireball take down Hong Kong Attitude was an absolute pleasure to cast. After the break, we'll return, obviously, with the Battle of the Japanese Powerhouses. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you here after the break.